Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the OWAS Bangalore monthly meet, which is today. And we have a very special guest with us who's going to talk about the secret life of a developer advocate and how it is actually helping the developer community and the community at large in the security aspect. So, about him, he's Liran. He's an application security activist and a long-time proponent of open source software. He's also a member of Node.js Security Working Group, an OWASP project lead, an author of Essential Node.js Security and Serverless Security. He's leading the developer advocacy team at Sneak in a mission to empower developers with better dev-first security. So over to you, Liran.
Thank you for having me, Vandana. And hey, everyone, thank you for joining us. I was hoping that we can talk today about some activities around developer relations. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Should probably see it at this point. There we go. Right. So what are these secret lives that developer relations, developer advocates really have? And this is what I want to talk to you about. So enough about me, because it's going to be anyway about my experience. But let's dive in, right? Let's today talk about all of these things. So kind of like in short, I think you might have seen or interacted with us, many folks with these titles of a DevRel, maybe having their, being called developer experience, developer evangelists. They're all kind of like a bit different. But I think unlike generally software engineering, where we can imagine a typical day looks like this, right? Like maybe a bit of debugging, design meetings, getting into the zone and writing code, right? You can relate to it as a software developer. Gonna wait with that GIF for a bit more. It's very nice to see. But really, I think that the day-to-day in developer relations really vary in between different roles, right? Different companies, even depending on which department you actually report to, whether that's marketing or product or engineering. And so if we need to define what developer relation is all about, what is the goal, right? What is the role that we're actually playing in a community? Then I choose to use the following quote by Jennifer Egan's to define it. Right. And as you can imagine, getting developers excited with your product happens in many mediums, right? It happens with blog posts because some people like reading, or conference talks, or engagements like this, where we can share great ideas and our vision and engage with folks in more personal ways. Or these YouTubes or live streams, you can just stream content, and other people just really like different ways of consuming content. So think about some of the most helpful ways you had experienced a product, right? You find a demo and an example code of how to use a library. You use the proof of concept application that someone put out, right, and prepared for you as a starting point. You interacted with an API, with the docs, and found it tremendously helpful. You received a friendly and helpful advice on GitHub or even Twitter for a library that you're using. All of these are really good examples of meaningful interactions that developer relations folks create and put out to engage with you, with every one of us in this community as developers. As another perspective of developer relations, we can refer to developer engagement model that was suggested by Amir Shavat, is a seasoned DevRel in this space. Then this model really suggests an iterative process of engagements, from education to enabling users, to collecting feedback, to inspiring folks, inspiring them in their following through a vision. So management, however, likes to quantify, right? Quantify and ROI everything. So if executives ask you about DevRel, maybe you can tell them this, right? Developer relation is like the force. You can't see it, you can't feel it, but you just have to believe it. So what do DevRels actually do all day? It seems that, except for our peers in the DevRel community, maybe this isn't really much of a common knowledge, perhaps except, people viewing us, traveling and speaking as the primary part of, the role that we do. And, for some, maybe it is true, but I wanted to give you a glimpse in the story of my first year being a developer advocate at what I did and what my activities look like when I started this. So, this is, the constant theme I'm going to use here, what my developer friends think I do, what my colleagues think I do, what my wife thinks I do, right? But the reality as well is basically a lot of trouble, um, context switching between things. So, conferences and traveling is sometimes a very pivotal part, because we need that engagement with developers, with with folks around, and we need to talk to them. But all of these things, require us to build the slides, build a story, talk about what is happening on the ecosystem, and be up to date with it. Working from unconventional places, because we're kind of constantly being on the road, so you have to work from different places. But we often don't talk about what it means to have that transition, for anyone who is transitioning the first time into a dev role. So I came from an engineering background, very tech savvy, before taking this role at Sneak. So I was leading teams for 8 years, and I didn't really know what I was supposed to do as a dev role. There's no user story going into this role says, connect with the community, or what does it even mean? So luckily, I have been involved with open source communities prior to joining Sneak, and I gave talks at conferences. I was actively involved in communities such as the Node Foundation and others. But still, given all that, my first couple of months as a developer advocate still really felt weird, very disconnected. Very different from what I was doing day to day as a developer, which I guess we can all attest to. So let's talk about travel and time zone, right? For a lot of people, DevRel is probably less very synonym with travel, right? Let's get that out of the way first, and yes, there's quite some travel that DevRel do. Before not too long, you do become a master of space and time. So taking this into perspective now with COVID, things are a little changed, but it is really pretty common to have DevRel team very distributed across different regions in the world to easily just engage with different communities, right? So we have the same thing, and of course, everyone kind of works in their respective places and then flies over and so on. But just getting that out of the way, the next thing up is thought leadership and what does it actually mean. So at a company like Sneak, which have its mission to drive open source security as an accessible asset to each and every developer in the world, my own life mission is to make that possible. When developers chat about dependencies management and one of them tells the other, hey, I think I read a Sneak blog that talks about log file security. That's for me what thought leadership is about. That's basically educating and helping folks learn about Sneak and security based on the work that we do. When developers chat about Lodash, and one of them remembers that says to the other, it's that prototype pollution that of a security issue that Sneak found. That is basically thought leadership, and the way that we push it forward is basically by creating content and awareness around this. So basically, we build this thought leadership by pioneering, innovating, inspiring, providing valuable insights to the community. One of Sneak's key activities in this thought leadership effort is its annual State of Source Security. So surveying how open source maintainers adopt security, what is the status across language-based ecosystems such as NPM, RubyGem, PyPI, and so on. Building this report, which span around 50 pages of data collected year over year, is basically my first activity at Sneak. And this is something I've done, first off, just joining and taking this on. And so that key activity led to a lot of other things that came out of it. For example, it has been about collaborating with our peers, with partnerships, for example, between Sneak and GitHub, just DevRels, talking around and doing some more things together. So pushing out this GitHub article was a really good way to share the news, because of course, a lot of folks also read, the GitHub articles. But I think what really resonated a lot was the impact that this thought leadership had for Sneak and its business. So basically tapping into, making Sneak a recognized brand leader in this field, but more specifically seeing that this work actually has direct impact on the business by, genuinely inspiring and helping customers realize the importance of the work we do has been deeply satisfying. So to show how far this actually resonates, right? This is Enrico Brescia, GitHub COO, and Ivan Wasner's Puppet's CEO, both kind of like tweeting and citing takeaways from that report that I've helped build. And all of this is really, I think, the power of how thought leadership can really have impact on an ecosystem. The other thing is that, there's a sense of always being connected. So with the latest news, current trends, and being in the know, knowing what's happening in the ecosystem that you're working. For example, if there's a new GitHub things, right? Like a GitHub action, what does it enable? How do we do? We should be able to write about it and help educate developers on this as well. As a DevRel, you'll often be a conduit, I think, that bridges the communities, right? You need to be that conduit that kind of like bridges things around. So, for example, breaking news to developers as soon as possible about security incidents to make sure that everyone are aware and can take, seek basically upgrades as fast as possible. So if there's anything around like a malicious remote command execution or something else, maybe you'd blog about it and do something around this. Oftentimes, such a blog isn't just making an announcement. It takes time and research and depth into understanding how the vulnerability works, and then putting that into a story that developers can read. Of course, that blog post about remote malicious code execution in RubyGem, it happened as an incident while while the team was out at karaoke. Makes sense. So team night out, I know what's on your mind. We definitely made sure that Frozen and Spice Girls are on the playlist, and you can see how everyone are very supportive in the team. So it doesn't have to be just travel and just Twitter and then writing blogs, right? As developers ourselves, we can also engage in engineering adventures to build tools that help developers, in the ecosystem, kind of like work in adjacent tooling. For me, it was security. So one of the ways I wanted to increase security awareness was basically to build this command line application called "Is Website Vulnerable?" It scans a website, detects JavaScript libraries, compares them with a Snyk database, and goes off and give you those results. To my surprise, this weekend project was a small tool that I wanted to make a significant impact in. But it surprised even me. The project received thousands of stars on GitHub. Was mentioned on some newsletters. A lot of folks have actually got involved and even suggested to create, not just work on bug fixes, but also suggested to create some capabilities and functionalities. And we talked about inspiring. Well, I think that kind of like showed me how far that could go. So one person, I was sharing this on Reddit, and I saw that one person built a website based on this Is Website Vulnerable CLI, and the way that it allowed to interact with a web page. And so others have even contributed GitHub action to make Is Website Vulnerable in your CI, in your pipeline. Furthermore, folks have actually added this CLI into their own CI, to test those, to run those test cases. So all of those things have actually, shown me how far we can actually go with impact. Another aspect of engineering is, of course, our ability and expertise in an ecosystem to, participate and share insights about features. One example of this is Node support for integrity policies, which adds an allow list for a set of modules and make it like a trusted and mitigates security concerns. And so that others, like third-party persons, wouldn't be able to alter them. This is, crucial capability for security for your Node modules. So this feature, however, was kind of like experimental. Many users did not even know about it, maybe even till today. So a good way to engage again with developers is, just writing a blog about it, an engineering blog that actually helps and talks about, the engineering depth of a specific capability. But more and more about the activities that we do is that one of my favorite activities in this DevRel field is this freedom to actually dive into researching areas that otherwise wouldn't be possible, right, as a core focus as a developer, just because of the capacity of time. So of course, you have to manage time just like everything else. But I think a really inspiring example is Charlie Gerard, who's a person who always amazes me with new creative ideas that she has on building new technologies. So what a better way to basically educate folks and advocate for TensorJS, by building, if not by building a web audio API, website around it. So basically, something that can listen to your microphone and, maybe detect some sound, making an activity out of it. So it's really, really cool way of inspiring others that I really like seeing. And as we've seen, there are many, many activities, that have gone through so far, right, in engagement, through whether this is writing and, these live streams, these talks, this engineering, those workshops. Ultimately, the type of activities that, we'd be doing as DevRel really focus and depends on the goals that we set out in this role. So far, we talked about DevRels, and how they produce content, but it's really a two-way street, right? And a big part, I think, of the value that we bring to a community is when we are connected to users. So let's talk about this a little bit more. I've been following a small repository that, well, I want to say recently, but it went a while back recently, integrated Sneak. And I noticed a PR coming that mentioned the Sneak CLI. So this happened while the entire Sneak company was on its annual all hands. Everyone was kind of like, off deck. But what I saw in that pull request really piqued my curiosity, as it may have been related to a Lodash security patch that we actually, released back then. So the Sneak CLI has more than 1 million downloads every month, and so a bug that could significantly maybe impact the user base was, very alarming. I quickly scrambled these Paw Patrol, I want to call them, these Paw Patrol buddies at Sneak, and we began urgently investigating this issue. It ended up by basically we wrapped it up in like an hour, and ended up as a pull request to fix and update test cases for the Sneak CLI. And this case showed me, how being connected to the community, just even watching some repositories that you interacted with, getting those maybe alerts over email. Of course, luckily here, catching it on time as well, allowed us to basically react in time and save a great deal of headache for users. So listening to users' feedback internally is great, externally as well. But an empowering way of engagement would be, when they struggle, is basically showing empathy. And empathy is not sympathy. So maybe this is, just to get you into like what exactly I'm trying to say here is, here's an example where a user, asks Sneak for PNP-MJS, which we don't currently support. And of course, I can be very, just say, no, we don't support it, which, I have said, of course, this is sympathizing with the person, right? So just basically, we don't support it, I'm sorry, and so on. But also empathizing is, as I think, trying to help them, right? So what can we do more at that point, right? So maybe we can reach out and say, there's a way to actually do something in a different way that will solve the problem, even if the product, in the bare bones, doesn't support it out of the box. So after all of this time, right, is DevRel a good fit for me? If this is maybe what you're asking, right? So it's let me sum up some of these things. So I think you should ask yourself at this point, right? Does helping people fulfills you? Do you flourish when you're getting a lot of independence to go out and do things, right? Inspire and create engagements and so on. Are you comfortable with working remotely? Because, it's even more true today, but definitely before, because just the work is constantly during travel or just, not in a, not specifically going to an office, and working with a team. Are you enjoying self-learning activities and exploring new things? I think all of this kind of like should be a really good starting point to see if this is probably your next career goal or not. But one of the ways I think to actually capture how DevRel is different from the roles that from the like a software developer role is the reversed comfort zone model, and that kind of like says everyone starts off in their comfort zone. But real success comes in the growth zone. But how do we actually get there, right? So one of the ways is, as we start from a place where we feel very comfortable and, we know a specific, for example, we're from like a backend background or so on. And this is kind of like what we do. But if we need to engage front-end developers, then this is already like moving us maybe to the fear zone, right? This is, we need to figure out how to learn something new, and it's a different mindset, different tooling, and so on. So instead of making excuses, you should be kind of like in this set of mind that, allow for you to experiment, allow for you to fail and make mistakes, and they are okay, and make a really good learning experience, even as something you could definitely share further on. Next up is this learning zone, right? You acquire new skills. you handle challenges and deal with them and understand, and also communicate and convey them in different ways. And all of that basically leads you up to this growth zone where you could actually, I think, truly immerse yourself in this, in this purpose and the goal that you've set for it. So the hardest thing is in DevRel is not going through that cycle, but going through that cycle repeatedly. This is what we constantly need to battle, because of course technologies change all the time. Developers constantly fluctuate between different tooling and industries and verticals in a sense. So we have to be on this constant growing mode all the time. I think this is what is something that you should also watch out from burning out. So how do you make an impact, right? Doing DevRel is something that takes a lot of time. It's very chaotic. It's very interrupt based. From my experience, it adds to a lot of context switching. But if you do just even a bit, consistently with a great passion to your community, it could actually end up in a really, really great result, great outcome. So with that, all of this kind of like make you a really great DevRel and a great engineer, right? Sharing, empathy, being collaborative. So DevRel away, and hopefully I was able to inspire you. If you wanna reach out and ask anything, feel free to DM. If you're shy or something, or just find me on Twitter and just hit up with any other questions. I'll be happy to chat with you more on this. So thank you, and that was me.
Thank you. So I think we don't have any questions at the moment in the chat box. Probably they can reach out to your Twitter handle, and then you can answer their queries.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Liran, for the session. I hope this was useful for the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.
Bye.